Welcome to Inside the Upside Down, where tonight we are talking paranormal television shows, behind the scenes, and our experiences, each being on them. Coming up next. Are you too close to the edge? You look fine.
I think I'm too close to the edge.
Well, then come over.
I'm too
Don't be
close.
shy. Don't be shy.
Oh, I got, Ichabod cranium sitting over here in my
There
way.
we go. All right. Welcome to Inside the Upside Down, where tonight we are talking about paranormal television shows, our experiences actually being on them, behind the scenes, and more. So I think this will be interesting. We're going to kind of get into some other things, some other aspects about storytelling on paranormal shows, real versus for entertainment only. I know that's a favorite term of yours, for entertainment only.
I'm going to try to behave.
You're going to try to behave? All right. All right. So, yeah, between the two of us, we've been on, I guess, a total of 4. You know, so we have some perspective of this. Now, I guess between the two of us, we filmed for 5. We can get into that a little bit later. I've kind of already voiced that on this channel before. So yeah, so definitely some behind the scenes, some certainly some experiences of shows that have been out there in the past, and even current with. Well, one thing I can't talk about, and the other one is actually a Russian thing that I've done here a couple of times. So, so we've both been on My Ghost Story. So I've been on The Haunted. The Russian thing I was talking about is called Mysteries of Mankind. At least that's the sort of equivalent in English. And then, of course, I did film for Ghost Adventures. So, so we'll talk about a number of those different things and what it's like to kind of go through that process, things that happen behind the scenes, things that you don't see on television, how the story can get changed and distorted, and all kinds of stuff like that. It's not what you see. I think one of the biggest things, and we'll get into some specifics on our shows, I think one of the biggest things that people don't realize is that they're watching a 40, 42, maybe 45-minute show. And it really takes like 3 days at least to film one of those. And so there's not that perspective. People are thinking, oh, this all happens boom, 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 boom. But it's not that way.
No. And another important thing is that since it's only like, 30, 40 minutes, an hour, and something happens every single time, it's not always happening every single time. There's going to be some times where they're filming and nothing happens. So they got to do something with that time or else people aren't going to watch it. And do they fake stuff? Yeah, of course they do. They all do. I don't care. Not like, you know what I mean? I'm talking on TV. Like 99% of them do it and you know it. And so...
Nothing was faked on our show. Was anything faked on your show?
No, I'm talking about...
Okay.
I'm talking about, like, My Ghost Story was a reenactment of events. And at least it sounds like for yours and for ours, that guy, he was awesome. But we were there, the core temperature of the building was 22 degrees when we were filming for several hours. And not once did he ask us to, well, let's try it this way, even though it didn't really happen that way. However it happened, that's what we did. It's hard to create.
Yeah, they're saying they can barely hear you.
It's hard to do, to make spirits perform on demand. So, and it's not like we could recreate the events as they happened, exactly as they happened. But we did not have to lie about anything, and we did not have to make anything up. So reenacting, great, as long as it's based on facts, as long as it's based on the truth. If it's not, then it's for entertainment purposes only. That's about as nice as I get.
Yeah, there is reality, and there is for entertainment purposes only. Like the show The Haunted, and I'm going to start off because I have slides. We're going to do a slideshow. That one was, there were a few reenactments, mostly with the family. So I guess since half the show was the family's backstory, there were a lot of reenactments in that regard, where they sat down, interviewed the family, and then when they talked about their history, and there was like a whole 20-year span of things going on in this house. Something people probably don't know is that when it comes to the reenactments, they sometimes will actually use a substitute house. So this family, the Osborne family, they had a smaller house, no offense to them. And all of our investigation footage, the cleansing footage from that, is all within that house. But when they were doing the reenactments part of it, and showing the family story, and they had us come in there and do some things, but didn't really use a lot of the investigation reenactment stuff that they filmed. It was a much bigger house. And in fact, if you look at some of the B-roll footage throughout the episode, you see stuff like there's this massive pool table in the middle of a room, and then they show the exterior of the real house, and it's like, no. No, there's no way. So there's things like that go on. So Betty is asking, do you have input on the TV show, or did the TV tell you how it was done? It's a good question. So it depends on the show. So if you're just doing like a retelling of a story, which would be like my ghost story, you're just telling your story. There's not much to really do there other than that. The Haunted was kind of a mixture of retelling the story, and then we actually filmed a lot of stuff right then and there. That the whole cleansing with Carl, we'll show some of that. Something like Ghost Adventures, that's all on the spot filming. I mean, they do some interviews, which I was a part of the interview process for one episode. But they're doing whatever they want to do. And there was some stuff there that is some inaccurate stuff with history, and some of the things that they were trying to suggest were not accurate. So
that's my problem with that show.
Well, yeah.
So
I mean, even
a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, even when we had Dave on, and we were down there in Mineral Springs, and he's basically saying, Zach, come on, you knew better. We told you. We told you that the stones from the wall were not used here in Mineral Springs. So,
but that would sell.
It would sell, and there's the urban legend rumor around town that it was. And even I've even been in there before and been shown, like, in that one closet, the wall with the limestone in there, and being told, well, yeah, that was from the prison, and then come to find out, well, no, it's really not. But that correction, which was made a while ago, I guess Zach didn't care. So
because the truth is not as important as now that's going to sound bad. That's going to make it sound like you can't handle the truth. People
Right.
don't want the truth. But some people do. And then some people just like to be entertained and don't care. So to each their own. I personally would rather watch a show that has the facts and tells the truth. There is a lot that's interesting about the truth. And sometimes the truth is better and it's more interesting. The history is there. History is always interesting. History is why we do what we do.
That's a big reason.
Yeah.
It's a big reason. And the people, whether living or dead. So it's a lot of that. It's not about, and you and I have this conversation. It's not about being on TV or, hi, we're on YouTube, make us a YouTube star. It's not about that. I mean, over time, you get asked to be on a show. Over time, people watch the channel, so you had somebody come into the store the other day and recognized you from the channel.
I don't know if you're watching or not tonight because I didn't catch his name, but he was like, I saw you on YouTube the other night. I was like, you did? What was I doing? As if, what else would I be doing on YouTube?
Right.
But, and yeah, I was like, yeah, that's me. That's me. He's starstruck. He said, I said, no, don't do that because I am not famous. I don't want to be. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's not about that, but it happens. It goes with the territory. But it's not what we're seeking.
Just want to be listened to.
Yeah, it's like an education thing.
Yeah, it's kind of frustrating to know that, the truth isn't as popular as the fiction. So.
People like a story. And that's something I was talking about in the Urban Legends video that I put out yesterday, was that people like a story, and that's how things get embellished. And in time, it becomes this huge, massive urban legend. Somewhere in there is that nugget of truth.
That's true.
But you have to peel back those layers to get at it. So, all right, let's get into some show specifics. All right, so go into this tab. Oh, there's a younger Mike. Hair was down on my face. I was having a bad hair day. I was a little bit more clean shaven, I guess. It's hard to believe. This was 2010. This was 9 years ago. Almost 9 years ago. Yeah, because it was later 2010.
You age well.
October, I guess.
Yeah?
Yeah. So this was the interview process. So they sat us down in a hotel room. There's a couple different ways to do the interview processes depending on the show. This one happened to be in a hotel room. They used a black backdrop, big light on your face, and they grilled you, and you kind of waited in the lobby until the next person was called. Other shows do it differently, and we'll get into that when we get into like my ghost story. So click off of there. Okay, so this is me, and that's Chris Borthwick behind me. So this is part of the footage. This was actual real investigation footage that they used within there. We had filmed this, and they took our piece of footage and put it within the episode. We were actually sitting down doing an EVP session. Now the EVPs, and this is the issue I had with The Haunted, was that the EVPs that we caught, the one that they used, yes, we did catch, but we did not catch here. And for their storytelling purposes, I guess what they wanted to do, let me come back to here. I guess what they wanted to do was to give us a reason why we wanted the house cleansed, or why the family wanted the house cleansed. Basically, the family had been having activity for 20 years. We investigated there, like a half dozen times, and there were different issues going on with Taliesin, the girl, and it just kept ramping up. But again, they have like 45 minutes to tell a story, so that kind of quick, we need them to have a real hardcore reason, because they only showed us investigating one time instead of the 6. We need them to have a real hardcore reason to go and have the cleansing done and get Carl out there. So they took the dye EVP, which was more powerful, from later on in the cleansing night when Taliesin got punched in the gut, and they put it into this EVP session that we were having. That's the only reason I can think of that they would have done that. So that EVP session happened. The dye EVP was real. It just wasn't in that spot. And so that's where you kind of have to be wary of with the television shows, is that for storytelling purposes, they will change up the order of events. Even with this show, which I thought was one of the better shows. They kept most of everything honest. So, but I don't know. I mean, some people will say, well, if you're not 100% honest, then how can we trust anything else? is true. And that's tough. And I would say, everything that happened there at that house, it did happen at that house. But they changed the order of events. Okay, moving on. So there was that. And then this is the cleansing that we talk about. So those of you that have been watching our channel forever, you're very familiar with this. So Carl Johnson was doing a cleansing of the house with all of us. This is a moment where Taliesin, the daughter, came back in there. The family was supposed to stay outside. She came back in, used the restroom, started talking to something at the wall. And so Carl did a blessing over her. Then she seemingly got punched in the gut and collapsed. That's where I caught that die EVP, is when that happened. There are a number of other things that happened around this time as well. We'll get into those in a little bit. Because again, it's like they selectively cut some things out. This is in the backyard. We pushed everything out into the backyard. This happened as well. You don't see it, but the wind is really whipping around us, and we're pushing something out through the backyard and gone. Now, what I talked about, selective storytelling and choosing what stays. Now, I had an issue, and not because this was a part that I was in, but because it was Animal Planet. This show was not produced by Animal Planet. It was produced by a different production company, but they sold it to Animal Planet on the premise that it was about how pets, in this case a cat, there was even an episode there with horses, how animals interacted with the supernatural. And this was a big part, with the cat going over to Taliesin's room, stopping, and then taking off under that chair. And I looked into the room, and there was a huge black mass that was in there. They actually cut this scene out, and basically the only thing that they kept the cats in was a story that Taliesin told toward the beginning of the episode, when the family was sitting down, and they showed some B-roll footage of the cats. And then when we were outside pushing it out, the cats were running around us in circles. But as far as showing cats reacting to paranormal activity, that was it. And it got cut because, again, 45 minutes to tell a story. But this was another compelling piece, especially for it being Animal Planet, and that was your audience. So, very, very strange how they pick and choose what actually stays in the show. So I'm just scrolling real quick to see if there's any questions. No, there's not questions, but I see comments like Baby Boy Mike. Nice. Nice. All right. Helen Casey says cats can sense something is wrong. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And basically what happened in this case, the cat was being very jittery, skittish. It was kind of following it from the dining area to the kitchen, kind of back through and around to where the bedrooms were at, and then boom, it just stopped in front of that doorway. And once it saw what I saw, it took off under this chair that you see right there. And then I tried to take a picture of what was in the room, stupidly used a flash, so I didn't get it actually on film, unfortunately. But it was an interesting moment, and they did not include that. So then this is what I was talking about, other things happening. Okay, so after Taliesin got punched in the gut, she got up, she was okay. Other things started happening. So the back door here kept blowing open, and we'd shut it, and it would blow open, and we'd shut it, and it'd blow open. There was also, and I've played the clip before in here, I'm not going to do it today, a tri-field meter in the bedroom, which started going off, and was by the closet where she normally saw this entity with red eyes. So it started going off like crazy. So you have all these different things going on at once. And the only thing that they kept of it for the show was Taliesin getting punched in the gut, which was very significant. Not saying it wasn't. And that was certainly, the big thing that you needed to keep. But, I mean, Carl Johnson was on here, 2 months ago now? Something like that. And he was even saying, yeah, they could have easily made that a 2-hour episode because there was so much that was going on. And they really could have. They spent, the entire first half of the show talking about the family, their history, and all that. And I don't have a problem with that with shows. I mean, the show we were talking about earlier, that was actually one thing that I liked about them, was they did spend, even though some of their history is wrong, they would usually spend the first half of the show talking about the history, interviewing people, getting their stories and experiences, which I think makes it more personal.
Mm-hmm.
You maybe learn something. Even if it's inaccurate, you can go look it up and find out the truth. I know that's a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
It is.
All right. So all these other different things happen. They have to kind of pick and choose what they include. So you're not getting the full story. And I guess what would be nice is if they would like publish outtakes or extras or something like that maybe you can get on a website or something. And I think some have done that in the past. They don't do that so much anymore. So now the crew. Now, this guy here, okay, he's one of the guys from the production company. He's holding a Sony Handycam. No big camera crews. I've heard that term before. With no big camera crews. But this was seriously no big camera crews. It was 2 guys with handycams. So this is one of the guys. And this is a photo I thought I would never use anywhere in my life, but here it is. And this is the other guy with a Sony Handycam. And they just came out and they filmed the cleansing of the house with this. So to me, I say, kudos to, keeping it raw and keeping it real on that.
Mm-hmm.
It was, you didn't have these big fancy rigs. You didn't have all this crazy lighting. You didn't have stuff like, oh, hey, we need to reshoot this. Or can you do that again? It wasn't like that. It was real. It was just a couple of guys with handycams, and we're going to film while you're doing the cleansing. So I would say the Haunted stayed pretty true and real to that, even though they moved that EVP and they had to cut some things out. They stayed pretty true on that. So Tom McNicholas saying he has the same camera. Yeah. Those Sony Handycams are actually pretty nice. So all right. Well, I think that's it for the Haunted. I think it's time to get to Shana's. Well, okay, so there's another question down here from Betty. So no big cameras. How many in the crew? There were 2. Just those 2 guys. And then there was us. So anything that we submitted from, the paranormal team, because we were, we had our own little cameras and everything going. It was just a little handheld Canon. It wasn't even like a video camera. It was just a point and shoot digital camera that had some video capabilities. So there's a real grainy piece of footage I have of that tri-field meter, and then a bunch of photos from that night. And that's what they used to make that part of the episode. They used the bigger camera crew for doing the reenactments and for doing the interviews. So they had like big, cameras set up on rigs, or, they had the guys with big, shoulder rigs, walking around for those things. But when it came to the cleansing night, it was just the little handhelds, and they try to keep it pretty raw. So, see if there's any other questions. Okay, so that was okay. Your experience on my ghost story. So your experience on my ghost story was different than mine, because the way my ghost story worked was they interviewed 2 people, but they could include others to tell the story and all that, but they didn't give names for that. So right. I was able to clip this out from your episode. There you are. That's the best I could get. They have another shot of like you putting your arm around a chair, and then like the back of your head while you're sitting in the chair. They have a shot of you standing up, but you don't see your head. Just like other than the Gropes picture, which we'll show in a minute. This is you.
Yeah, we had one guy, just one guy show up, and Rita and Jeannie, the old owner of the building at the time, went and did the interview and told a story, and then one guy came and filmed everything, and it was super, super cold. There's no electricity. It was like 20
degrees?
Yeah, there's no electricity in the building. I mean, we had to have a generator, you know, that we used and then turned off during filming and stuff like that. But...
And he was, what, having you, like, reenact the whole Gropes? And I'll show you guys the Gropes pictures. Our regulars are familiar with this photo, but for those of you that are not regulars, so this is the photo that they did a reenactment of. And you kind of see the glowing hand over the front of Shana. You kind of see the face behind her. Some people see a little boy back behind her too.
I tried to blow it off as, it's a reflection. Oh, it's, you know.
But you're not wearing anything reflective.
But, yeah. I mean, I tried to blow it off as everything other than what it was, just because nothing like that ever happened or got captured whenever we were taking pictures. And so I immediately blew it off, right? But then we've had, you know, several people in the field, several, you know, photographers, several, you know, people analyze pictures, skeptics, not everybody, you name it, look at this picture, and not one person could say, well, maybe it's this, you know, instead of, you know, what we think it is. But I mean, all I know is that what was going on at that time, whenever that was going on, and the stuff that I was feeling, there was an EVP to go along with that.
Well, yeah, and I'm going to ask you these questions out of order. So Donna asked, did you feel anything when that happened? So what were you feeling?
Yeah, well, you can't see me pointing, but that doorway right there to my left, that's Action Alley. So right before all of this started going on. Action Alley. And there was a creaky ramp. And so when you heard that thing creak, you knew something was going to happen. Something always happened in that seat. I always wanted to sit there for that reason. And then there would be times, and I hate to have my back to a room, but there would be some times when I would point my chair in the other direction and just be like, okay, let's see what you got. You know, come on down. You know, come see me. I'm not watching for you. I'm not looking. You know, let's, you know, come up and poke me, you know. See
so
if you can scare me.
This camera guy, one guy, and we had, when we did B-roll for my ghost story, it was just one guy. Was he going down there and filming stuff, you know, with all these things that you're telling him? Yeah,
because, you know, he wanted to get a feel for Action Alley, you know, also. And so whenever he stepped on there and made the creaky noise, I said, that's what we always hear before something happens, before something comes from that direction. You know, that's the noise we always heard. So you knew something was going to happen, and you knew to expect to hear something on audio. There was always something. And so he was, you know, kind of going at it from every angle. But we heard someone step on the ramp, and then heard someone, or felt someone behind me that actually physically put their hands on me. So, and I mean, you know how it gets where I'd be like, ooh, you know, the, you know, energy, the buzzing.
The buzz.
Yeah, the buzz.
Buzz.
Right. So
I wouldn't have done it if you didn't point. And then I was like, oh.
Right.
Yeah, she was referring to that. Okay.
But that's what was happening. I mean, it lit me up. It was just insane, the amount of energy that I was feeling. And then, but it also felt like someone was repeatedly, like, touching my back. And I said, you know, are you touching my back right now? And then somebody, didn't really sound like a child, but it definitely was male, said, go right to sleep. So I don't know if they were trying to, you know, make me go to sleep. I have no idea, but, you know, that, I don't know. I don't know what the intent was behind it. I didn't hear the voice. I didn't hear the EVP out loud in real time, so I couldn't say. It wasn't until, the next day when we started listening to stuff, because when we were in there for several hours at a time. So there was like, if we're lucky, on the low end of like 5 or 6 hours to listen to for every time we went in there. And then sometimes we go in there for about 10 minutes, It just all depends. If the building was active enough to, with the kind of energy that's like, well, maybe we'll just let the place cool off a little bit, a little too much sometimes, in your face.
I have to ask, and I know this may sound like a question in which I'm trying to be funny, but I'm really not. Mm-hmm. Is this the same chair that you're sitting in now as the ectogasm?
Yes.
It is.
That is the very same chair. That is the very same spot. Action Alley. That's how it got its name originally.
Okay. Well, Action Alley is down through that door.
Right.
But this chair here, so where you got groped in a very, I'm going to say sexual manner, because that's right there. That's where she had what you guys ended up calling the ectogasm.
Yep. She still will not let me have that picture because she knows I'll show people.
Right.
And I will. I mean, I don't understand why you wouldn't want to show something like that. It's a very compelling picture. And considering what
I'd love
happens,
to see that picture. Not for that. I mean, people can take that in all kinds. And we've joked around about the term ectogasm here. I know that, but not for that reason, but for the fact that it's supernatural, paranormal activity that you don't usually see.
And the audio before that happened,
the audio goes right with it.
It is unmistakable. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is a man's voice, and he's enjoying it. And then, yeah. And then that. So.
All right.
Action Alley.
Action Alley.
That's how.
Action Alley.
That's how it got its name, kind of.
Yeah. Okay, so from Brandy, we'll answer a couple of questions here before we get into my ghost story. Per Brandy, do you try to make sure the footage stays as raw as possible? As far as anything on Haunted Road Media, yeah. When it comes to the television shows, each one varies. There are a number of them that just stay very. They use a lot of cinematography. Like the shows that are mostly recreations. You have a person sitting down, and then everything that you see visually is a recreation. Certainly none of that's actually raw. When it comes to like the investigation shows, I would say they attempt to keep it raw. As to whether or not they keep it true or not, that's a different story. I would say with my ghost story, it was mostly a recreation, reenactment show, but they ended up appending the caught on camera part to the end of that. I'm guessing there was some sort of legality, because the show was originally just my ghost story, and then they ended up appending caught on camera. I'm sure there was a legal issue for that. Mostly recreation, reenactments, but then what they wanted for the caught on camera part was any footage of yours that you had. So, if you had photos or video footage or anything like that, then they would splice that into it. And it worked pretty well. I thought it was, again, one of the more honest shows out there, because it's just retelling a story. Yep. Rather than trying to make something out of, we're going to go to a location that's supposed to be haunted, and then we're going to investigate, and it's getting down to day 3, the 11th hour, and it's like, oh, nothing's happened. Let's make something happen. There's been plenty of shows accused of doing that.
I loved Scariest Places on Earth. I wanted to go on that one so bad. And not just, hey, I want to be on TV, but just because the stuff that they made those people do, I was like, that is a good test of my own personal strength right there.
Yeah, Scariest Places on Earth was interesting because it was like a variety show, and it was before Ghost Hunters and all that came out. So it was kind of like the first show of that genre that really started to do anything. And get some popularity. It was like a paranormal variety show because you had that where you're talking about them going to Vlad's castle and all that, and that was like a paranormal dare show.
Yeah,
but then they had others where they just told the ghost stories. The one from Mineral Springs was goofy because they had those guys. Well, all three of us have degrees in PhDs in parapsychology, and it's like I'm done.
Oh well. That doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, or like the water incident where they're telling the story of, well, I've never seen, the phantom puddle of water at Mineral Springs all the times we've been there, but back then this was like almost 20 years ago now. There was apparently a puddle of water that would just form out of nowhere, and so they have the guy telling the story to the group, and they turn the camera away, and then all of a sudden, splash, there's water on the ground, and the one girl screams. It's like,
yeah, I mean, if you want to be more, do that in the pool or something. It's like there's a pool in the building. For random water to show up there, that would be pretty cool.
Well, there's supposed to be those footsteps coming up out of the pool by who.
I've never seen anything like that, but
okay, we'll talk later. Your favorite guy from there?
I know.
Okay, so Tom had an interesting question here, and then we'll get back into the stuff. From Tom, if you both were offered your own TV show, would you accept? And then Bree has an addendum on that. If you were offered your own TV show, would you set rules and quit if the rules were broken? So, offered your own TV show. You and I have talked about this before. If something were to happen.
And I said no.
She said no.
Only because my kids are not grown. That's pretty much the gist of it for me. My kids are not grown, so I'm not just going to take off and abandon them to
responsible mother over here.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, but you're going to get paid. It's like, I really don't care.
No, you don't at first. And I think that's one of the misconceptions is like the first season or two that you're on a show like that, you don't make a whole lot of money. If anything, like, Carl was on here, a couple months ago when he was talking about his experiences with Ghost Hunters those first couple seasons. They just reimbursed him, or maybe they paid for it straight up, the airfare and hotels. He didn't make any money doing that.
Yeah, no, I know somebody. I don't know if he's watching or not, but he was working with Taps. They didn't pay him for that. They paid for his airfare, his room, and board. So basically, he just traveled and got to do cool camera guy stuff, and then, but yeah, he get paid for that. Yeah,
and Betty Lang is even asking, do you get paid for the footage? No, you don't get paid for the footage. So any of that stuff that we captured and they used on those television shows, no, there was no payment for that. You signed a waiver, you signed a release saying that, yes, you could use this, on your television show. And if you don't, it doesn't get used. That's kind of the way it is. Yeah, and we've talked about before, it's not about, getting on television. If it happens, it happens. But it doesn't pay until you start getting, like several seasons down the road. Once, Ghost Hunters had taken off for a while, Ghost Adventures, all that. That's when they started getting paid for that, because it was a popular show that was now picking up and what have you. But, yeah, there was nothing like that. Like, even, I know you have your friend, was part of the camera crew for Ghost Hunters, and he just got reimbursed for airfare and hotel.
Yep. I mean, he got to go to a lot of cool spots. He got to go to Ireland, got to go just all over the...
You get to travel.
All over the globe, But, now if my kids are grown, like they don't need mom anymore, and You know, would I do it just for being able to travel and they'll do the same, you know, go to the places, you know, document, you know, the history, get it out there, the truth. And, you know, if something happens, it happens. You know, unfortunately, something doesn't always happen. So, yeah, there would definitely have to be a rule on my end that says if something doesn't happen, I ain't making shit up and I don't care, you know, what happens. But you can't, I don't think, I guess it depends on the network. I don't think it would fly just saying, well, if I have to make shit up, we're done. I don't think it happens that way.
You can quit. I mean, it's not going to go well. There might be some legal problems following it. But I mean, you can refuse to walk in front of the camera. Nobody's holding a gun to your head, you know? And so, yeah, on that note, you know, there would definitely have to be some rules in place. You know, there have been some things that have come my way. I don't talk about it unless something does happen, like, you know, the Russian thing. I didn't say anything about that until their episode actually aired and they had it up there. You know, because there's opportunities that come and go all the time. And for one reason or another, they didn't pan out. I mean, there was a few years back that something was supposed to start happening with a production company in Toronto. And I had to go get a passport because you now need you don't need a passport to get into Canada, but to get back into the United States, you do now. It didn't always used to be like that. And this was at a time for me that was like just after my divorce was final, and I didn't have a whole lot of money and all that stuff. And it was like, well, okay, I'm gonna put out the money for the passport and to get it expedited, only for nothing to ever happen with it. So things like that happen. So I just, when a possibility comes up, I don't throw it on social media like I see a lot of people do. Like there's throw things out there like, oh, you know, we're going to be filming this. Oh, you know, we're talking with a production company about doing that. And then you never hear from them again. And it's like, I don't say anything to them, but I mean, I know that there are others that kind of like, you know, whatever happened to that. So I don't throw anything out there until something seriously happens. I can say right now there's more stuff happening with the Russians. And there is one thing, I don't know if I can say where yet, but there is one thing additionally that's happening in May. And I'll just say that for right now. There's other possibilities on the burner right now. But if they don't pan out, I'm not saying shit. Because that's the way it happens. You know, somebody sees a video of yours, or they saw something you wrote, or they saw a place that you went to and posted some cool pictures, or you know, somebody interviewed you or your team, and you related some experience, and somebody picks up on that podcast and gets a hold of you and says, hey, you know, we like that story that you told. You know, it was pretty cool. It's where we're going to be filming. Jeff Belanger, you know, found me on freaking Twitter for the Ghost Adventures thing. They saw a YouTube video. So people, the production companies will kind of pick you out of the crowd here and there. But I would say, you know, at least half of them don't pan out. So I don't say anything. So as far as, I guess that was a very long-winded of saying there would be rules. Actually, this is actually a good lead-in for the My Ghost Story segment for my side is when I did film for My Ghost Story, a little bit different than Shana because I was one of the storytellers. Actually, I was the main storyteller, and Kathy came along because she had some photos. And the way My Ghost Story did it, kind of give you an idea, because you'll see this happen too, where people will just, or production companies will just start like mass emailing paranormal teams. You know, you'll get an email in your inbox like, hey, I'm from such and such a production company. Right now, we're looking for people that have had, we saw it recently for haunted hospitals. You know, we're looking for people that have had these experiences. Submit an application here. And so my ghost story was doing that. They were emailing everybody and their brother for ghost stories. Showed up in my inbox twice from two different producers, and so I was like, okay, fine, I'll throw them the Black Bear story. And that's how that happened. They got back in touch with me. Hey, can you give us a little bit more information? So there's like a little bit of back and forth, and they're like, yeah, we like this one. In fact, I think they asked for 5 different stories. And so, it had investigations there in Oklahoma, of course. I had stuff in my Ghosts and Legends of Oklahoma book, so I just, threw them a few, and they picked one. Tom McNicholas with a $5 super chat. Will we still be friends no matter how famous you... Tom, of course, friendship, it has nothing to do with it. It has nothing to do with it.
Only to some.
It's nothing. It's there are some people that just get too big for their britches or whatever. I don't know what it is. They get a big head or something.
Too famous to function in their own eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no, that's not going to happen, Tom. You'll always be friends. Always.
Family.
Yeah.
Family.
So, yeah, and same with you, Dustin. Same thing. Yeah, so with my ghost story, they said, okay, we like this story, we want to produce it. They flew us out to LA and put us up in a hotel there, so it was cool. That was nice. It was Kathy, Nance, and I that went. We went and we checked out the entity house, stuff like that while we were there. And there's a $5 super chat from Dustin Samario. Thank you very much, Dustin. So Tom McNicholas, Dustin Samario, super chat superstars. All right, so we'll get into these picks then. So there's me on my ghost story, clean shaven again. Mm-hmm. And so this is the green room. So you went into their studios. This is a green room that's not green. I have been in a green room before that is green, and that was when I was interviewed for a television station for a morning show, which was interesting. It's not a paranormal show, but that was kind of cool. And what was interesting about this particular company that did my ghost story, and I forget the name of the production company, but they were serving wine. So that's actually a cup of wine. They did it to kind of ease your nerves if you had some nerves going into the interview, to kind of relax you. Here, have some wine. So there's another group that came in right after us. I think one of the guys had a little much.
I'm sure a lot of people were quote unquote nervous.
Yeah.
Just to get the free booze.
Just to keep bringing the bottles of wine.
It's like, I'm just not feeling it. I think I need a little more.
A little more. I saw this ghost over there. Yeah, so they gave us wine, which was cool. I like me some wine for sure. So that was kind of fun. Now the recreations for this show. Oh, and part of the story. I'm sorry. Before we jump out of the interview and into the recreation. So the part of this interview, you're asking about, if you were asked to lie or anything. And this is the one part of my ghost story that left a bad taste in my mouth. Everything else was great. Was that there was a part of my particular story that I didn't observe with my own eyes. The story came from Logan Corelli, and it had to do with shadow people jumping up into the trees in the cemetery across the street from Blackbird Church. Now, that was all part of the write-up of things that have been reported to have happened at the church. And he kept asking me, and he kept asking me, and he kept asking me this question, and wanting me to tell it from my perspective. And I'm like, I can't answer it like that. And he would ask it another way, and I'd dance around it some more and talk about the cemetery, but not these shadow people that Logan saw jump up into the tree. And I just told him, that's not my story. I can't tell it as if I saw it. I can say that I heard it from him. Of course, they don't want that. You heard a story from somebody. They want it to be your own observances. So it's like I can tell you all kinds of stuff about the cemetery. I can tell you about the EVPs that I got, and my teeth are warm and all that stuff. I couldn't tell that one. So we danced around for a while, and they never used any of that part of the interview. Nothing even close or remotely came out of that. Other than that, everything was fine. But there will be times where you're in those interviews and they're trying to get you to say a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. I guess some people are probably, they might go ahead and do that. There's some people that might go ahead and offer that little bit more, that little embellishment.
That's how it starts.
That's how it starts. You're right. That's how it starts. But I wasn't going to do that. So that was an interesting dance. All right. So the recreations that happen sometimes, and this happened with us, it could not happen at the location in which the activity took place. We couldn't do it at Blackberry Church. Sometimes it's because a place is just gone. It's obliterated. It is no more. And I'd seen those on My Ghost Story before, where they even put on there, unfortunately, this building has since been, destroyed or knocked down or whatever. And so all the recreations were from somewhere else. They didn't clarify that on our episode, but ours was completely filmed in a different location. Because the owners of the property were thinking about suing me. It wasn't my fault. They totally mistook the YouTube video that we had on Blackbear Church. They thought that I was saying, and so I have to say this every single time now, just to clarify, and this is going in the Shadow Person book too, just to clarify once again, I did not say that the parishioners were occultists in making sacrificial offerings to Satan and all this other bullshit. I never said that. There was some evidence after the fact, after the church had been closed down, that perhaps something like that was going on. There were a lot of local rumors that had gone on. We saw some evidence in the back on top of a stone slab, burnt animal bones, scorch marks on that slab. So if the stories were true, that's where it would have taken place, because you could see it. But it's not like I was an eyewitness or anything. So, but they took it as I was saying that the parishioners, the people that went to that church back in the day, were doing those things. And so they barred us from using the church for the show. They were excited at first. They were like, oh, wow, somebody remembers the church. Of course, for decades, kids have been going in there and spray painting and doing all kinds of crazy shit in there anyway. But no, when we want to go in there, forget it. Yeah. So this is how the different recreations can happen. So this is the exterior of the Black Bear Church. We did not have another abandoned church like that to use. They probably heard that. This is, I know. This is what we ended up using. 2 different locations. Andrew Cox will appreciate this. This is the Great White House of the 101 Ranch near Ponca City. What it did have, the exterior definitely is not working very well at all as a replacement, even though they did use this shot for an exterior on the show. It was the interior that we needed, the basement. So this is the basement of the church. It's concrete, pretty basic. And so when we were at the 101 Ranch, we were in, you can see the openings there. So there's a basement area within there. And that's what we use, and that's where we're doing this. So this is our B-roll guy. Did you have this guy with the big hair like that?
No.
No, it was a different guy?
Ours was an older guy.
It was an older guy? Okay, no, he was kind of young.
Well, middle-aged.
Lots of hair, yeah. But you can see, it's the concrete and the stone and all that, so it's not too far off. It's doable. You can make it at least somewhat believable. Couple other shots of us. I'm holding, my photo camera, so I'm not in any of these. So, and he's just kind of going around, getting some shots of us reenacting like we're investigating. And so this shot, I would guess was never used in the show, because while he's filming with that camera, I'm taking photographs, so I can't imagine any of that was ever used. I mean, maybe, but you know, and even so far as, okay, so the girl here with the short ponytail, her name was Destiny. So you guys remember the story from the Crawler? We had a psychic medium with us that was down there, and you know, she was trying to get us to sing hymns and all that stuff. Fortunately, they had us do they had us sing the songs. Fortunately, they did not use any of that in the episode. That would have been horrific. But they basically had her take the place of the medium. So when they showed the shots of, you know, the psychic medium was, you know, sensing this or doing that, as far as like the storytelling, they used her in her place. So they may even replace people. The other thing that got replaced was the cemetery, because the cemetery was right across the street from Black Bear Church. The only thing that we had to use, like just up the hill from the 101 Ranch, is this really, really small cemetery that's here. So there's a couple of guys that were kind of famous with the 101 Ranch that are buried here. And that was supposed to replace, and you can tell that this is where it just doesn't work out. So that's the actual cemetery. So, you know, they actually used this photo in the show, and then they took this footage of me walking through this little patch of land. It just, some of it doesn't work out because of the scale. But that kind of gives you an idea of what they have to do for recreations when you completely cannot use a spot. You know, we were barred from using that church in the cemetery across the street because they didn't like my video, and so we had to. I have to really thank the 101 Ranch Old Timers Association for that. So those guys are really, really nice. They were like, "Yeah, come on in here." So we appreciated that. All right, let's take a look at some of your questions. B3 Aerospace says the guy with the hair scares me. Oh, he's a nice guy. He was a real nice guy. He just had a lot of hair. Let's see. Donna says, sad how defaced it is, and you say there was evidence of satanic worship there too. Well, that's what I was talking about before, was that there was some evidence of maybe ritualistic sacrifices being done on that back slab. Don't know for sure. It could have simply been some kids, you know, being mean to an animal. Doesn't mean that they were trying to, you know, run some sort of ritual back there. You know, could even be something as stupid as, you know, somebody was, you know, had a leg of fried chicken and was burning it. I mean, I don't think that was the case, you know, but we weren't there to actually witness it. There were all of those local rumors and stories about that happening there, and then we see something like that, so it's like, well, if that is true, then this is probably where it happened, you know, but it wouldn't hold up in a court of law, you know. So all right. So, and then Donna also says, TV still takes a very subjective stance on how or what they want presented. Is it scary enough, creepy enough? Yeah. I mean, it's what you were saying earlier. It's whatever sells.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, and I mean, it's always what it comes down to with any of this, is it's always down to the money. You know.
Not everybody is all about the money.
Well, when it's network television, yeah. Betty Lange with a good question here. How much research do the TV companies do on you? Okay, so in my experience, I mean they find you, you know. I mean, I guess there are cases in which you put your name into the hat on something. where they might be mass emailing and trying to get people. I actually did not throw in on that haunted hospital thing. I mean, I have some stories and some experiences, but I didn't feel like it was enough. Like Greg Fiketic went and he did St. Joe's Hospital. Well, we've had experiences at St. Joe's. We've got footage.
Yeah, that place is cool.
But he's the guy for that. So I'm not going to encroach on his territory. It's just whatever. Let Greg do that. I mean, I could talk about Trans-Allegheny. There's Copperhead Greg Graham would be a better person for Trans-Allegheny, But I've had some cool experiences there, So when they find us, like with us, they're watching a number of the YouTube videos. So like some of the different ones, like just recently. I'm sorry, I'm dancing a little bit because I don't know how much I want to say. So they watched a video for the subject that they were looking for, and then they watched a couple others to see, okay, how is his personality over, several different, takes, in several different scenarios. Same thing with somebody back in December had caught on one of the podcasts, and they did the same thing. They listened to other podcasts. So as far as that, they'll watch stuff on you if it exists, or listen to stuff on you if it exists. They'll look at any previous or prior television credits that you have. Then you have a phone interview. Basically, you have a phone screening, and they'll talk to you a little bit. They want energy. You need to kind of be a storyteller. They just ask you about your experiences, and I just tell them anything that I always just tell you guys. Really, is not much different for me. Then after that, they want something like a Skype interview, see how you are on camera, and all that fun stuff. And then what they'll do, in a lot of cases, each is a little different, but what they'll do is they'll record the Skype conversation, and they will take like 2 minutes out of a 15-minute conversation and put that together in like its own little package, and then they'll go off to a boardroom with several others just like it and be like, okay, do we want this person, that person, what have you, and they kind of try to sell you to the group. Just interesting. So that's how some do it in any case. Tom McNicholas says Shana will have chocolate. Yes.
Shana always has chocolate. Mm-hmm. There is chocolate in the house.
Yeah.
There's 72% of the dark chocolate, and then there's some dark chocolate with sea salt and almonds. And it is so good.
The other one is pretty good. Definitely.
Yeah.
Tom McNicholas wondering if we ever saw the show Ghost Bait. I never saw that.
I don't watch TV. I've never even heard of it, actually. I don't remember that one at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually... It sounds familiar, but I never saw an episode. From Brandy, how do you pick and choose your locations to investigate?
I mean, who's open?
Yeah.
Who doesn't already have something going on?
I mean, there's places we prefer to investigate or that we want to get back to. I mean, we're always up for investigating Mineral Springs. We want to get back to places like Vandalia, where we've had experiences before, and we want to continue to build that rapport with the spirits there.
Yeah,
sometimes you're just fishing around.
Yeah, I like to explore cemeteries. I mean, I'll follow a story about something that happened on the side of the road, and see if whatever happened is still kind of lingering around. You never know. Instead of going to the places where everybody goes, find some new places. I mean, it may not be what's popular.
Oh, they're saying Ghost Bait is new.
Oh, okay. People don't know, well, I've never heard of that place. Well, if you've never heard of it and other people haven't heard of it, then you're the first one. Maybe you're the first one, and it's uncharted territory. And you know who's going to be really excited to see you, more than likely? the spirit of somebody who has been ignored for a long time. And I'd be like, oh my God, okay, someone can feel me. Someone can see me. Someone's paying attention to me. You know, nobody ever comes here. I would much rather go, with the exception of Mineral Springs, of course, where we like to go all the time. I would rather go to places where nobody else is going.
Well, we just encountered some stuff this past weekend, you know, try to track down. I mean, we're just like, okay, what can we do this weekend? And for whatever reason, I was like, well, let's follow up a little bit more on the Wood River Massacre thing. Because, you know, you saw that monument as we were driving by it like a year and a half ago, something like that. Came across a little bit more info when we were doing our Alton videos. So it's like, it's a beautiful day. We need to get out and do something. Didn't have like a lot of time to like dig in and find a big place to, you know, go to or whatever. So it's like, let's follow up on that, you know, maybe try to find the cemetery or whatever where they're buried, you know. And so we did that. But then there was other stuff that we discovered while we were there. It's like, oh, there's more things to follow up on. And some other questions even regarding the Wood River Massacre that,
right.
You know.
And that was kind of unexpected. It's a very nice, even though you can hear the traffic, because it's not far from the road.
Yeah.
Once you step in there, though, I mean, at least for me, I kind of tuned it out. It was a very nice, you know, cozy, quiet little, you know, area. But then there's all these stones, you know, just like rows and rows and rows. And it's like, what is this? You know, why are they not identified? Why do they not have names, you know? And, but then coming right out of the gate for anybody that's on my Facebook, you know, as soon as I walked in, I was looking around, oh, over the woods, what's this? In this little wooded area. And there were some red flowers. So I was going to go pick them up and go walk around and see if I could find a matching set and then give it back. Because I'm nice like that. And, I had just picked the flowers up, and then all of a sudden something's like at my arm, at my hand, you know. I was like, whoa, hi, hello. You know, who is this? And, you know, I didn't hear anything. I didn't see anything. I didn't pick up on anything, but just they were very persistent, whoever they were at that moment. So I don't know who they were. I have no idea. Yep. Wasn't running a recorder. You know, because it's outside. You know, it's outside and it's by the road. So with a regular, you know, like a digital recorder, you almost always have to, you know, you end up throwing a lot of that out. It's contaminated big time. But
yeah, you can get a lot of contamination situations like that.
Yeah, you almost have to throw out any voice unless they answer a question directly right next to you, and you can tell that it's right there. But a really interesting place. I want to go back.
Yep, we're definitely going to go back. So expect more from us on that. We'll have a couple of different Alton ones because I won't say, but there's other connections that we've made along the way while doing our other Alton videos. That is just like, wow, this is wild. So we're going to be covering more of that stuff. Yes, surprise. Just to circle back on some of these ones that were hanging out there from the locations I was talking about with my ghost story. Down at Gorton, so the ranch and the church are near each other. They're about 20 minutes to a half an hour from each other. I mean, we could have picked anywhere to replace the church with, but we had already established ourselves a bit with the 101 Ranch because we had investigated there a few times before. In fact, the night of the crawler was actually a night that we had been investigating the 101 Ranch. We were investigating the 101 Ranch with another team, and when we got done there, they were asking about it because Logan Corelli likes to talk a lot about the Black Bear Church. So they were interested in checking it out. So we drove from the 101 down to Black Bear, and that's when we had the crawler incident. It was Logan was actually telling all the stories to the other team, and he was with them at the cemetery when the rest of our team was there in the church. So that was crawler night. It was 101 ranch investigation night. So yeah, like I said, about 20 minutes to a half an hour, but we could have filmed anywhere. We could have like scouted around and tried to find a place anywhere in Oklahoma and said, we'll use this. But because we had that rapport already built with 101 Ranch, and we just asked him, it was like, really the main thing was the basement that we needed. And they had that. So, and then, basements. Yeah. And Betty Lange asking, Mike, and this will go for you too. Did you have fun on the show? I mean, yeah. I mean, like the one with the haunted got really intense during the cleansings, but all in all, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't do this if I didn't enjoy it. And I'm not just talking about being in front of a camera. I'm talking about like the investigation and the research and all of that. Because for those particular shows, all of them, I mean, I had to do a significant amount of research and history and digging up background information and all that. So yes, I enjoyed it very much. What about you?
My experience was very cold.
That's right. It was 20 degrees.
It took me a while to thaw out. And we were several hours, somewhere in the vicinity of like 8 to 10 hours we spent in there. It was cold. And I would be terrible on TV too because I don't act. Like there's no acting and read a script and do this and that. I don't do that stuff.
Reality television. It's not supposed to be acting.
Yeah,
although we know there are people who act.
Yeah, it's like I don't do stuff like that. How you see me talking right now is how I will talk to you if we meet in real life. So, I don't. And plus, I would assume that nobody's really going to come knocking on my door because of my very vocal displeasure at network television. So, I'm not mad at it neither. So, I don't think they're going to be.
Yet they want you in India.
Yeah, I got to give them props. They were very persistent about it for a minute, and then we had a heated debate about why I don't do fiction and why they think it's a tribute to the facts. And I was like, it's also a lie mixed in with some fact, There's some truth in there, so I got to give them that, but for the most part, you're making stuff up, and I don't do that. I was like, well, you said you watched the channel that I'm on, so if you watch that, then you would know that we do not do fiction.
Right.
We don't do that. So aren't urban legends fiction? I don't know. Are they?
There's always a grain of truth in there somewhere, and our perspective on it is we're trying to get to the root of the urban legend, not. And I guess this is. And Bree Jones says some of reality television are so fake. I applaud them for reading the cue cards. Well, yeah, it's quote unquote reality television. We're acting out that it's reality, and there are a lot of ones out there that are just like, well, you're kidding me, right? But like this one with the Russians, even though they've asked me, a few times now, to do different interviews on different places, and some of them made sense, like in Whitby Abbey. It's like, okay, well, that was in one of Vanessa's book. I haven't been there. Vanessa had been. I can talk on it. Can you talk about this place? Sure. Can you talk about that place? Sure. They originally found me for Helltown, which they didn't use any of it. Because what did they want? They wanted the urban legend. They wanted the urban legends.
It's like, but wait a minute. What about what really happened?
And I didn't give them that, so they didn't use it. So they will still pick and choose, even though, like the Whitby Abbey one was fine. They, at least as far as I can tell, because it's not like they dubbed it over in English. It was a Russian television station for Russian viewers, so it's all Russian, which is really interesting to do. And there's a couple more coming out, but. Yeah, I guess if it doesn't fit their story, they're not going to use it.
And that's what's wrong with network television today. Yeah. I don't watch it. Someday that stuff will just be something that you can get on Netflix later. Eventually, there's going to be the whole truth and nothing but the truth out there, and someday there's an audience out there that will be hip to it.
I mean, My Ghost Story has hit its third station now. Now it's on Travel Channel. Somebody hit me up the other day. Hey, I see you on TV, or it was a couple weeks ago or whatever. And it was Travel Channel was showing the shows, and it started off on Bio. I think it went to, was it A&E? Somebody out there might know. And now it's on Travel Channel. But I've also seen The Haunted in different places. I guess that is on Destination America now, but actually got syndicated in France. That one's funny.
Was that the page that there's one from? No, it's Mexican. It's a Spanish page. They've been sharing some haunted room media stuff out.
Well, they share out our stuff, but it's not like it's dubbed over in a different language.
No, I was like, who are these people?
So yeah, I've seen myself speak in French and Russian now. It's weird. Mm-hmm. So, all right. Is there anything else? I think that probably about does it, doesn't it? Betty had a question here. Can you make living relatives upset when filming a cemetery where their relatives' graves are? I mean, I'm sure there are people that get upset about that. There are people that get upset just for the fact that we're in the cemetery to begin with.
Here's the thing. My view on cemeteries. It's like we've said before. I don't think people linger with their remains. I think if they feel like someone that they're connected to is visiting their site, I think that they might make an appearance somehow. But other than that, it's not like we're going there to be disrespectful or provoke or vandalize or, and a lot of the times, we're doing follow-ups on like actual historical events, stuff that's happened with these people, stuff that might be historical, stuff that, if someone has a problem with that, they can say something. If someone says, hey, I'd really appreciate it if it's like, everybody's entitled to an opinion. It's not against the law to be in a cemetery.
Right.
Except for after hours. It's always good to call and get permission after hours because people will notice.
Right. If you want to be in a cemetery after dark, you can do it. You can make it happen. Just make the call. Just call the local sheriff or whatever.
I don't have a problem if someone has a problem with what I do. I will be glad to explain who I am and why I do what I do and who I'm doing it, for. And what I'm trying to find out. It's like will make every effort to stay away from your relative. I mean, or I can say hi. I don't know. I'm not going to stop going in cemeteries. No. I'm doing it. I'm not going to. I don't care. I don't think it's disrespectful. I think we're very respectful.
I remember watching, it might be in season 1 of House of Cards, where she's running through the cemetery. It's just part of her jogging route, and this woman turns on her and blasts her for being disrespectful. I'm like, I know that feeling. But, whatever. So Katie Palmer has the perfect question to end the show with.
All right.
Perfect question to end the show with. Katie asks, which TV show do you think is the most truthful out of all of them?
This channel.
Well, we're not a TV channel. We're a YouTube channel, which I guess is a type of, tube is supposed to be like television tube.
It would probably be for me, and I don't watch TV, so I'm not sure. It would have to be one like a documentary that's stating facts and stuff like that and following up, trying to find, truth. So as for ghost hunt shows, I don't know, because I don't watch any of them.
But you have seen episodes of stuff.
I have, and I didn't believe any of it. Right. So I believe the idea behind it because we do it. But do I believe what they're doing? No.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to come down to any of the shows, kind of like you said, they're doing the recreations, like My Ghost Story or Paranormal Witness was a good one. I liked how they, were pretty creepy. Just they had a really creepy vibe, but they're just retelling a story. I thought The Haunted did a really good job, although I know that there were some things that were off about it, like moving that EVP and all that. So they each have their variances. They're not all 100%. There's always going to be something that's a little off that they have to change or modify or whatever for the storytelling purposes. So you're not getting any of it 100%. And it's becoming harder because they've kind of picked up now on the fact that people are seeing through a lot of this. So they're starting to create things that are untrue and trying to mask it as this is really true. Like the Helltown. I don't want to say the word documentary because it's not a documentary. It's like a movie of a documentary that Destination America put out. So everybody's starting to believe this thing because here's a documentary on Helltown. It's like they're all Canadian actors. So that one that was on Netflix that was called Haunted, everybody was called out the episode, and I totally understand why, of the two women talking about their father being this mass murderer that nobody's ever heard of. And so it's like, okay, so, and then he was like trying to get the grandson to do some of this stuff or whatever, or the grandson moved into the house, and it's like, how is that possible that there's this mass murderer and they're basically confessing our father did this? Why is there no arrest? Why is there nothing? And so it's like, there's no way that's freaking true. I stopped watching the show after that episode. So I think that I think that some of these different companies have picked up on the fact that we're seeing through the bullshit of some of these, shows that are supposed to be reality shows, and are trying to. They still want a show with people talking about paranormal activity that's happened to them. But since we're seeing through the quote unquote reality shows, well, we're gonna make it seem like it's all real, but we're being creative about it because this isn't what really happened. It's just getting harder. So it makes you not want to believe anything anymore. I rambled there, so I hope people followed what I was trying to say. All right, everybody. We all remember Unsolved Mysteries, yeah. What about Paranormal State, faked or real? I mean, I didn't watch enough of Paranormal State. It's hard. It's hard with Ryan now. After once it came out that he was stealing money, it was like, I mean, total distrust right there. How can I believe anything that he's done now? All the lies, all the,
Wasn't he on drugs or like?
Yeah, there was all that stuff going on too.
So that other people are like, well, then if he's doing that, then he wasn't in his right mind. He's the victim. Let's like him again. I never did like him to begin with. Be honest.
Well, it's hard to know because like he went through all like the cancer stuff, and now people don't know if he really had cancer or not. So did he lie about it or not? He's trying to get back into the paranormal community and all that. I think he needs time. It's going to take a lot of time for people to kind of warm up to him and try to trust him again. But with our field, it's so difficult that you lie one time, and how can anybody trust anything you say after that or anything that you even said before it? So it's like, well, this is revealed as a lie. How do I know that all that other stuff that you said, is actually true? It was the problem with the infield poltergeist case when, and the girls admitted, and they said, well, we lied about 2% of it. And so it's 2%. Like, it's still 2%. So how do you believe any of the other stuff that happened? It becomes very, very difficult to take them at their word, and they're, between, I guess, the pressure of trying to keep people interested in that we really have stuff going on, or pressure that they have to almost perform because all these people are watching them, that they felt compelled to do some things. I can understand that, but just the fact that you did something here to fake something puts everything else into question. It makes it more difficult. So, and this is what I can say about Ryan, and I can say it the same as everybody else that's out there. I wasn't in the room, so I can't say 100% yes or no whether or not any of these people have ever faked anything. I have my ideas. I have my suspicions. There have been people involved with some of the different shows that have tried to come forth at times and say what they saw behind the scenes or what they were asked to do. So it puts the entire show into question. But I wasn't there in the room for those either. So it makes it real difficult. I mean, I know what I've experienced. I know paranormal activity is real. I've experienced it. I've seen it. I've seen a lot of shit in my life. And, we try to present everything as well as we can here as far as putting the footage out there, relating our experience leading up to this piece of footage. There's plenty of people that comment on there and say, oh, it's fake. Well, and it comes down to, do you believe me or not? It's your choice as to whether you do.
They weren't there, so they don't know.
They weren't there, so they don't have to.
It's basically, two sides at that point. You either, say, oh, it's fake because I wasn't there, or like, well, I don't know, I wasn't there. There's a lot of stuff that I say 99% of the time I got to be there. I'm not there. It's like, well, I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying I didn't see it, so I don't know. But the same can be said for the stuff that we do too.
Yeah. Good question from Donna Gorton here. Do you feel it makes it harder for you to prove that you're actually an honest investigator because of so many that do fake it?
Yep.
Yeah. It's harder to do that. There's a lot of people out there that are faking things that do make this harder. There's so many YouTube channels out there that are clearly fake. And I guess one of the nice things, I was talking about comments earlier where people are saying, oh, you're fake it. But there are actually a lot of other comments on there that say, thank you for presenting an honest investigation and not doing all that fake crap. So it goes both ways. It makes it harder.
I don't always talk about every single thing that happens to me on camera. Just because I feel like if I do, it's going to be like, well, she's faking, because something doesn't happen all the time, and something doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes stuff happens that we can capture. Sometimes stuff happens and it's just me. And then I feel like I'm losing my marbles a little bit, and then I realize, no, I'm not really losing my marbles. This stuff is really happening, but how can I say it, if nobody else can see it, or if nobody else can hear it, or if nobody else can feel it? And then what if I tell him this is what I felt, and then now he feels it because my power of suggestion, and now he's feeling it because of me, but did he really feel it? This kind of stuff bothers me during investigations. I just rambled really fast. I'm sorry, but that kind of stuff bothers me all the time. It's like, I don't fake stuff. I don't lie. I don't have to. If you believe me, fine. If you don't believe me, that's fine too. But if something didn't happen, then it didn't happen. I'm not going to make something up. Be like, well, yeah, I think I felt that, but, I'm not sure. Maybe I didn't. Maybe it was this. I automatically try to second guess everything that comes out of my mouth unless it's so blatantly obvious and catches me off guard. I'm just like, whoa. Other than that, I try to blow everything off as soon as it happens until I can't blow it off anymore. Until whoever is doing whatever they are doing is saying, excuse me, I thought I had your attention. Let me try it again. And it's like, okay, well, maybe there's something there then, because, that's like a second time. It's got to happen twice almost every time before I'll really, accept it. So
Tom McNicholas threw up the Stephen King quote, and I do like this. I've heard him say this on his book on writing and in some of his different lectures. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, shame on both of us. Or then there's George W. Bush. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, well, you can't fool me twice. But I like the Stephen King quote. Shame on both of us the 3rd time. Yes. All right. So let's go ahead and get to shout-outs and super chats, all that great stuff. So super chat superstars, Tom McNicholas, Dustin Samario, who will be seen this coming weekend at the Psychic and Paranormal Expo, Dubuque, Iowa. It's Kelly McCarville's event. Please go check that out. Join us there. Meet us there. Going to have fresh Haunted Road roast. It helps you hunt ghosts. I mean, really fresh. It is showing up on the doorstep tomorrow. Just roasted less than a week ago. So that's good stuff. It's going to be awesome stuff. All right. So come on out for that. We'll see you this weekend. Please be there.
I'm trying. I missed the last one.
You missed the last one, so you got to make it out to this one. And I mean, yes, and she's a responsible mother, so we understand that. But
if I miss this one, then I am definitely going to be at the Paracon in June.
Of course, you're going to be at the Paracon in June.
Yeah. If I have to bring everybody in my entire family, I'm going to go. I'm going to be there.
All right. So let's get to the shout-outs. All right. We've got this participants panel. Andrew and his trucking gnomes. Thank you, Andrew Cox. Appreciate that. There's Bree Jones. Hey, Bree. Beat 3 Airspace. So Deep Down the Rabbit Hole Patreon patrons. Tom McNicholas, Beat 3 Airspace, Zippy Davis, B.D. Flint, Pamela Queen, Joe Chandler, Andrew Cox, Dustin Samario, and David Y. I'm not even attempting. When he shows up, when he's able to join us, he shows up in there as David Y. So
yeah,
just
I
David
have
Y
the
works.
pronunciation of his name in a voice message because I asked him and he told me.
Okay.
I need to listen to it again.
Got Betty Lange. Thank you for all the questions tonight, Betty. There's Kathy Ciliento. Thanks for joining us again. Chipper Terry, thank you as well. EQ, thank you. And, of course, we have Donna Gorton, our Cheshire Cat. Thank you for Cheshire Catting the chat. Always appreciated. Jennifer Tinker's in the house. Hey, Jen, how's it going? Old childhood friend of mine. Katie Palmer, good to see you. Thank you for the super chat from the other show as well. There are a few of you with that in here. There's Kelly McCarville. We're just talking about her. Kevin Phillips, thanks for joining us again. Kroll Ogden, thanks for joining us tonight.
Oh, yeah, that's a cool name.
Yeah. Robert Hanna, thank you once again. There's the Haglin. Thank you. And Tracy Christian. See, I'm losing it. Thank you for joining us again. All right. So who else do we have that the participants panel did not pick up?
Lurker's gonna lurk.
Lurker's gonna lurk.
Is Adam in there?
Probably knows everything that just happened on Oak Island. All right. I think that is gonna do it. Actually, I think the participants panel picked up on everybody. Wow, go figure that. All right. So everybody, we hope to see you at the conference this weekend. We have, and there goes our light. See, even the light's like, hey, sit, end the show.
We're done.
Shut up, you're done. Friday Night Ghost Race La Llorona video coming out. Of course, the movie's coming out, so we're going to cover the legends. And I'm trying to think of who we have on next week. I think this is the return of Christopher Peters. I think that's the order. Christopher Peters, then Freddie Silva. So
pretty
looking
excited
forward to
about
it.
that one.
Pretty excited, yes. So all right, everybody, have a great night. Get some more tea and get some chocolate. We've rambled on long enough. Till next time.